Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with freelance writer and owner of rabid.whole Jillian Zbleski. She is a freelance writer currently in a transitional phase of her career, specifically still trying to figure out what she wants to be when she grows up. She has done a lot of self-inquiry and personal growth work. She has changed her lifestyle and mindset for the better when that didn't seem possible. She is a certified primordial sound meditation teacher. She also dabbles in yoga. We get into all of this and so much more about her life. Enjoy this interview.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. It's Joe Dimino. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Excellent. Hey, thank you for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into your life as a freelance writer, I want to begin with what we've all gone through for the last 3 years with the pandemic and COVID. And I want to know how you survived that time period and how it's changed the way that you live your life and write and do what you do now.
Well, it is directly responsible for what I do now, and it changed my life drastically for the positive. Personally, I view COVID as a gift because, the forcing of the slowing down and the reevaluating and the going inward, it was a gift of time to kind of, stop, look around, decide if you like what you see, and, go from there. So for me, I was very, very upset about it at first. I had, a fairly social, high energy, high volume lifestyle, and I was working in the service industry. So I basically thought my life was over. My job is gone. My livelihood is gone. How am I going to support myself? Just all of the questions. But I realized, maybe I wanted to slow down, and I had been on autopilot, like many of us, for so long, just going through the motions, doing the day-to-day, rushing from here to there, never even knowing where I am sometimes, or why, or if I want to be there. So COVID gave me that opportunity to kind of reevaluate what I was doing, why I was doing it, and if I wanted to continue. And continuing not being an option, it was kind of like, okay, well, what else is there? So during that time, I discovered meditation and yoga and just got this whole new sense of calm and peace that I had never experienced before and was, in awe of. So that was kind of my takeaway. And also, I just realized everything's going to be okay. You may not know how or why or when it'll work out, but it will.
Very well said. Yeah, I tend to believe that as much strife as it caused, I think it really did a lot of things that, Mother Nature always wins. And when you see...
Yeah, we needed that, for sure. Yeah. Humanity needed that.
Yeah, when you see the Venice Canal flare up and you see cities like Beijing that doesn't have smog anymore, there's a level of that where it's like the Earth or the universe decided that it's game over. We have to take a minute. We have to pause. And I think that
exactly.
The thing I realized while this was happening is that if you were a positive person, you saw that glass half full going in, you were going to manifest that time in a way that was going to be positive. But on the other side, if you were negative, you were going to manifest it further into a level of who you were before that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like your body, when you push it too hard, eventually it's going to take its own break, and that's what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get to the essence of exactly what you do for a living, and I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. One of the kids looks up at you and asks, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
Well, I'm actually in a bit of a transition period. I'm trying to get into full-time writing, creative work, and not having to have the regular job to help supplement. But I actually, at 40 years old, started to decide to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. So I've been working with a career coach and exploring opportunities that I didn't even know existed before to branch out into this new, online world that I was actually pretty resistant to in the beginning, but, it's full of opportunities once you know where to look for them and sift through all of the, filters and scams and whatnot is out there, because it can be a hard place to navigate. But I'm embracing that and trying to branch out into that as well, while currently writing for a local online publication, The Savanian. It's a news source, entertainment, reviews, what's happening, kind of all-encompassing kind of a paper. So that's fun and exciting for me. And that's about the bulk of it at the moment, but, clearly some more opportunities are in the works.
Absolutely. Sounds like it. So let's get to the beginnings of how all this began. So you talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised and how some of these seeds got into you to want to write and to explore and to become who you are today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the land of cheese and beer, the frozen tundra. And, everything was great. I had a decent childhood, but, divorced parents, single mom, blah, blah, blah. Grew up as a pretty shy child, actually. Ended up in a long-term relationship right out of high school. We bought the house. We had the dog. We settled down. Everything was great. White picket fence. Marriage is the next step. And then one day I realized I was not ready for that to be the rest of my life. I was in my early 20s, and I just, got this restlessness about it. I wanted more. I wanted to see more. I wanted to do more. Even though everything I had in my life at the time was great, the good paying office job with benefits and the whole works, the great partner, supportive, and I struggled for a long time with how am I going to get out of this seemingly perfect situation? And it was a lot of inner turmoil because I knew nothing bad was going to happen to give me a reason to leave. So one day I finally decided that my unhappiness was reason enough. I finally gave myself that permission to want something different and act on it. So that was one of the hardest things I had to do was, say no thank you to this life on a silver platter. And walking away from that was probably the hardest and best thing I've ever done, because that led to travel. From there, I moved to Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, kind of a gypsy lifestyle for a while, just traveling and, not really knowing what was next. I had a lot of people tell me they were living vicariously through me, which was one of the best compliments I had ever received. Just thinking, because one of my, kind of mottos is never settle. And I feel like so many people do. They never leave their hometown. They never, explore, see what else is out there. They just stick with what they've got. It's good enough, but, there could be better. For me, I would rather wake up every morning knowing anything is possible than this is all I got.
Amen. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's like the epitome of the Gen X mantra. I've been thinking a lot about, how all of these generations roll and what's going to resonate, especially with the young ones. In fact, I have a stepdaughter. Her name is Jillian. So, so I'm watching this younger generation and how they're rolling, and I think that, the Xers were really like, we got to break out and see the world. Money's not going to be the only thing that's going to tether us to what we're supposed to do. Yeah.
Experience is so much more valuable.
Yeah, and if you have one shot down here, why not? That's kind of the key.
Absolutely.
So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
Oh, I wanted to be an astronaut. I loved the suit. I wanted to wear the suit and the helmet and float around in space.
Well, and that's kind of like what you're doing down here on Earth. You're exploring.
Yes.
You just have oxygen in this environment. So
yes, I love that.
So you're obviously very curious and highly driven in your life, and in that pursuit, we all have people we look up to that fuel us. Who's been a role model or a hero for you?
Oh, gosh, that's interesting. And, I get that question a lot, and it's honestly hard to answer. I mean, I don't really have a specific person. I feel like put on the spot, I always just spit out Oprah because, she's great and she, did everything against all odds and didn't take no for an answer, and look at her now and all of that. But I honestly don't have one, and I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, but I honestly do not have one.
So let's up the ante on this a little bit. Maybe this is a little bit more attainable. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend a little time with them, who would it be?
Anybody alive, you said?
Yeah, anybody alive.
Ooh, that's a good one. I suppose, again, the go-to answer would be Oprah, but I think it would be maybe, that's a tough one. There's so many good ones. I guess I will go big and bold and say Donald Trump, just because I want to hear some of his explanations and try to get a grasp of where he's coming from and his intentions. I'm just so fascinated by ego and, the human connection and just interacting with other people and self-awareness and all of those things.
I've interviewed somebody that met Oprah, so we had to knock that off the list. That was a very interesting thing. They had done her show back in the day. So
exciting.
Yeah. Number one answer on that one is always Michelle Obama. People always meet her.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Yeah, she's fascinating. So let's kind of get to the essence of what makes you tick. Every day you wake up, there's always things that we're looking forward to and things that we want to accomplish and do and see. What is it that ultimately is the motivator, the fuel for you every day?
It's definitely like human interaction, human connection, like figuring out why we do what we do or how other people respond to us. I think it's self-awareness, becoming more self-aware and aware of others, and just our whole interaction with each other and how we kind of take away from our experiences with one another, and being able to see all perspectives, kind of, being open and able to view things from all sides, not as this is my experience of the situation, but this is the entirety of the situation.
So I got to know, with that logo that you have, are you a Donnie Darko fan?
No, actually, it's just, so that's funny. I actually was pretty afraid of that movie when I saw it, but I am a Jake Gyllenhaal fan. But it's just a rabbit that I drew. I actually doodled that during COVID when I kind of got into my more spiritual side and started the rabbit hole, which is rabid as in being fanatical about something, and whole being a thing that is complete in itself. So I was kind of rabid about the universe and all of that at the time, and kind of just went with that down the rabbit hole, all those
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the interesting thing about that film is it's a cult classic, but I was wondering why it did so bad. And sometimes indie films just do that, but this was released right around 9/11, and no one was into being adventurous.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why it kind of became a phoenix that rose later on. So, you kind of look out your path to a good degree of, pivoting from what the life that you had before. But let me kind of up that just a little bit. And if you have a dream tonight and you could run into the 20-year-old version of yourself and give that version of you a piece of mind, things that everything become and achieved in your life up to this point, what would you tell that young version?
I would tell them, just relax, let it go. It's not all that serious. Just be you, be bold, be open, experience, go for it. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid. Everyone around you is just as afraid as you are. Some of us just do it anyway. And most of us have the same fears and concerns as the person next to us. It's just who's going to make the move and reach out or do the thing. And I would just tell myself not to hold back and to have that confidence and to just keep going and not question so much, not, worry so much. Just be present, be there, and then, take the next step, whatever it may be.
So as a writer, we all have these moments, and I'm going to ask you two questions. The first question is, what was the book growing up that either made you want to be a writer or want to read more? And what piece of writing did you do where you felt like I've arrived? This is a vocation that I need to continue to delve into.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I kind of want to say it was actually a love-hate relationship with the book for me. Great Expectations. It was kind of a beast, and I was a little resistant to it, but then, it grew on me, and it was just such a presence. Like, it was kind of something to aspire to. Not, on the same, something similar but different, but with that kind of power. And then for my own writing, that's a tough. I have a book in process, and each chapter kind of has a different feeling for me, and I think that is something that keeps me going forward, but something that has been finalized, I think, would be just one of the articles I had written about another author, a local author here, whose book came out, and the way I was able to kind of readdress some of what was in her book to kind of make it a little more accessible. I think I was pretty proud of that one.
So, of all of the things that you've done in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
That would be never settling, not staying where, society told me I should be, not continuing to check the boxes, but to get out of the box and, have the rest of the experiences that I have and will.
So, what has been one of the best responses, fan letters you've ever gotten from your work, whether it's writing or otherwise?
I think it's just when people tell me that I've inspired them, that it's given them courage or something to think about. I like to ask the hard questions, and then, when people are like, oh, yeah, wait a minute, there is another way, there is another option, it doesn't have to be this way. So when I can get people thinking or asking questions, then, I feel like I've done my job.
So everyone out there has a perception of you. We all have pockets of people that we play a role in their lives, family, friends, clients, colleagues. But ultimately, you're the one that lives your life. You're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am an inspirer and an entertainer. I like to make people laugh and think and question. So there's definitely a realness about me, but also, I like to show the possibility that there is, sky's the limit for whoever you are, because I didn't always believe that myself. It's hard to see, what's out there and what you can do. But once you just, keep taking those steps, then you get a bigger view.
Perfect. Jillian, if anyone out there wants to learn more about you, see your writing, anything involving your world, where is the best place for them to go?
I am on Instagram at rabid.whole, or the Savanian, which is actually a subscription-based publication, but that is where my new advice column is being published. So that is something I'm very excited about. It's called Take It or Leave It, and it's just going to be a general advice column with reader answered questions. Perfect.
Jillian, hey, this has been a great story. I love it. It's the ultimate carpe diem. It's wonderful. Thank you for opening up your
Thank you, my pleasure.
story. Yeah, and best of luck with everything.
You as well. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.